and gamers, welcome back to the games that shaped me in oral history. I'm your host, Alex, of the YouTube channel Turbo Zone. Welcome to the show. If you don't know what this show is, it's a podcast type show where I talk about games that shaped me throughout my life. Hence the name, The Games That Shaped Me. Welcome back. It's been a minute since I've done an episode, like 2 months, but I want to keep this train rolling. Last time we talked about Ape Escape and Christmas Break. That was a PlayStation 1 game. I figured for this episode we could cross the tracks over to the Nintendo 64. I haven't done an episode talking about the N64 yet, which is actually pretty surprising, because if I had to guess, I don't know how long this show will run. Hopefully just as long as I'm making content online. But if I had to guess, by the end of this show's run, I bet there will be more N64 episodes than any other console. And the reason for that is that the N64 is probably my most nostalgic console. I know I talk about Atari and Sega and all these other things all the damn time. That's just what I'm interested in now. But as a kid, I had an N64 first and foremost, and I had other consoles later on. I played a bunch of different games. I was never really tied to one console. But the N64 was really my first foray into gaming. I got it whenever I was very young for Christmas. I got it with Diddy Kong Racing, a game that I'll also probably do an episode on, and Rampage World Tour. Now, the N64 is important to me, and I had that original black N64 that we all had. And up until about I think it was like 2001, somewhere around there, whenever the original Xbox launched, I had the N64 and a bunch of games, a ton of games. And then I had the PlayStation 1. And a ton of games. Well, we didn't really have a lot of money, and of course, me being a kid, I want the newest, shiniest thing. So, my parents proposed that I trade in my PS1, N64, and all the games that I had, and get a new console. So I chose to get an Xbox, a choice that I wouldn't regret, but I would later on, because I was very young at this point, I was still like in elementary school, I would later on trade the original Xbox in for a PS2, just because the PS2 had more games that interested me as a kid, like Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that. So, the Xbox wouldn't last long, but I did trade in my N64 and PS1 to get there. And that affected me, because I was really attached to the N64. I had a lot of fond memories of playing the N64. And my parents knew that. But, again, we didn't have a lot of money. So if I wanted a new game system, that's sort of just what I had to do. So, cut to one summer day. My mom decides to go out and look around for yard sales. It's like a Saturday, and we love to go into yard sales. I love going to yard sales because more than likely going out and finding yard sales means that I get to get video games, because a lot of people have video games. They sell them for cheap, and I could probably make a whole episode about yard sale stories. But I remember my mom came across this yard sale that was being run by a church. Now, churches do this from time to time. I've been to a few that have done it, where they have people in the congregation kind of come together and put up their items that they want to sell, and I guess the funds go to the church or something. Either way, we went to some church to their yard sale thing, and it was like kind of a yard sale. It was like in their basement, so it really wasn't a yard sale, but it was still a yard sale. So we were looking through the stuff that they had on offer, and I come across this box of N64 games and a jungle green Nintendo 64. It was very cheap. I don't know how much it was. If I had to guess, maybe like $10 for all of it. But it came with a ton of games. It came with 2 controllers, and it was the green N64. So I asked my mom if I could get this. She said yes. So I took that N64 home, and that jungle green N64 is still the N64 I have to this day. So yeah, I have held on to that. That was my second N64. I got it. I reclaimed my childhood as a child. I was still a child, but I reclaimed it, and I took those games home. The game we're talking about today hasn't come up yet. You're probably wondering why. You're like 5 minutes into the episode, and you're asking Alex, why aren't you talking about the game? That's because the game is Mortal Kombat 4, and I wanted to give you this setup before I get into the game itself, because getting home, getting that green N64 out, looking through the games, there was some pretty good stuff in there, like Cruisin' USA, GoldenEye was in there, a bunch of other games. But one of the games that I bought from a church yard sale was Mortal Kombat 4. My first taste of what would become one of my favorite game series, Mortal Kombat. I don't really talk about Mortal Kombat a lot on this channel, mainly because I don't really talk about fighting games that much. I do like a lot of fighting games, if you've caught me talking about it from time to time, but Mortal Kombat has always been my favorite series when it comes to fighting games, and this was my first taste. From here, I would go on to play the games that I missed previous to 4 on like the Sega Genesis and stuff. I would go on to play the PlayStation 2 titles and keep up with it. I know the lore, I know the characters, I love the world of Mortal Kombat, and this is where I got into it. Which is pretty funny, because if you ask a lot of Mortal Kombat fans, 4 is seen as like one of the lowest points in the series. But I didn't know that. I was a dumb kid. So that didn't matter to me. What mattered to me was that this game was unlike any other game in my N64 library or that I've played up to that point. I think about games on the N64 that especially games that I played a lot as a kid, and I think of like, of course, Mario 64. I think of Diddy Kong Racing. I think of Banjo-Kazooie, like one of my favorite games of all time, fucking Banjo-Kazooie. I think of Yoshi's Story. Those are a lot of the games that I played as a kid. Pokemon Stadium. And then I look over at Mortal Kombat 4. And I think this is what intrigued me the most about this game, was the fact that it was unlike anything else that I had on that console up to that point. Most of the other games were colorful, were bubbly, were, other than like maybe GoldenEye, which even GoldenEye isn't that bad. It's just, you're shooting each other. But most of the other games were more colorful affairs that I had. And then I look over at Mortal Kombat 4 and it's like eerie. The backgrounds are like stylish. There's gore. There's violence. It's just, the game itself just kind of put me in a sort of a trance when I played it as a kid. And this is one that I would play with my younger sister a lot. We loved playing the 64. She also loves that console too because of that reason. We played a lot of games. And this is one that we played all the damn time. Were we any good at it? No. Actually, in this footage you're watching, I forgot to mention this. In the footage you're watching, I'm not any good at this game right now either. Because for ease of access, even though I have my original copy on the N64, I just emulated it to get footage. And I didn't think about the fact that this game uses some of the C buttons for the controls, for like the fighting game controls. And when you're playing it on like an Xbox controller on a emulator, it tries to map the C buttons to your right stick. So, and I didn't want to fuck around and figure. I'm not playing this for very long. I'm just getting the footage. So, the gameplay you're seeing is not great, and that's why, because I was having to use my right stick for some of the kicks and stuff. Very weird. But yeah, we played this game all the damn time. And I remember the game over screen is something that I think I talked about this. I talked to her recently about this. Was this game, and she brought up the game over screen because it also like left an impact on her. I'll show it. Here it is. The game over screen, your character gets sent down this like pit, this like tunnel, and he's falling and falling, and if you don't hit the start button or if you're out of credits, he falls onto this bed of spikes. It looks silly now because of the graphics and how far we've progressed. I've played games now with ultra realistic violence and stuff, so this looks stupid. But at the time, like, this was my other games didn't do this. My other games didn't show a person getting impaled on spikes. Like, what? So that like left a lasting impression on us. It kind of freaked us out a little bit, but also like left me intrigued. You know, like it was like a weird feeling. It was like I was scared and I was also intrigued, and that was a lot of this game for me growing up. I was scared, but I was intrigued. Mortal Kombat 4 isn't a great game. I'm gonna be upfront with that. Having played the rest of the series, this wasn't one that I went back to a lot after I discovered how good Mortal Kombat could be. 4 is just sort of a middle of the road game. But I would be lying if I said I didn't like it. It doesn't have some sort of charm, because it does. It was their first foray into 3D with the series. The characters look stupid. The backgrounds are cool. There's weird mechanics in the game, like weapons, and you can throw things that are all laying on the ground. Very strange. I love, and you'll see it throughout this video. I love if you're playing the endurance round or if you're playing 2-on-2. Whenever you get done fighting an opponent, most games that do 2-on-2, like the character loses and the other character just kind of pops in. But I love the fact that when the first character loses, they explode, which is fucking amazing. I always loved that effect as a kid. Like, it just kind of like their limbs go flying everywhere. Super funny looking. Yeah, and I remember having a hard time playing the arcade mode. I was going to show you some of the endings, but where I had to play this on a weird Xbox setup, and it's not meant for that, I didn't get past Goro. So if you're curious, the endings are on YouTube, and they're hysterical. They're really funny endings for this game. The cutscenes are great. I love them. But I did get to Goro on this playthrough of the arcade ladder for this video. Which reminded me also is like that was a big moment for me as a kid. I remember the first time I finished this. I remember the first time I got to Goro in one of the arcade ladders. It was like I don't even know like what day of the week it was, but it was like a late night. I was back in my bedroom. The lights were off. You know, it was dark. I was playing Mortal Kombat 4, and I got to Goro. And Goro is, this big hulking dude with 4 arms. Kind of freaks you out a little bit when you first see him. And his attacks are brutal. I mean, brutal. I mean, he grabs you once and swings you around, and that's like half your health bar. So I remember being terrified of this guy, but I really wanted to beat him. So I remember fighting him and losing, and fighting him and losing, until finally I got him. Finally, I got him. And then I got to Shinnok. I don't know if I beat Shinnok. I don't remember. But I remember beating Goro was a big moment for me. And shortly after I did that day, my dad was like, hey, we're going to go pick up dinner. Do you want to ride with me? And I was like, oh, sure. So I remember being in the car with my dad, driving to, I don't know, whatever restaurant we were picking up dinner from. And I remember talking to him about how I just beat Goro in Mortal Kombat 4. And what was surprising to me then was not the fact that, like, my dad, usually when I would tell my dad stuff about video games, I'd be like, oh yeah, I just fucking saved, I beat Dr. Eggman, and he'd be like, oh, whatever, cool. But I told him I beat Goro on Mortal Kombat 4. And granted, I don't think he ever played Mortal Kombat 4, but he played Mortal Kombat. So he remembered Goro. So I remember him saying, oh, I remember fighting that guy on the old game. I guess maybe he played it on, like, Super Nintendo or something. But I remember him talking about that with me in the car. I remember being like, wow, like, my dad knows Mortal Kombat. Like, that's pretty cool. And I don't know, that moment just kind of stands out to me. And, yeah, this game's stupid. Mortal Kombat 4 is really stupid. It's a stupid game. I wouldn't recommend you play it today, and under any circumstance, really. There's many other better Mortal Kombats. Like, if you want a better 3D Mortal Kombat, play, like, Mortal Kombat Deception. If you want just a better Mortal Kombat, it's like the best Mortal Kombat play, I'd probably say Mortal Kombat 9 is probably my favorite in the series. It's such a good game. But Mortal Kombat 4 has a special place in my heart, because it was truly like my first experience with a game that felt like, well, not felt, that was M-rated, but it sort of felt like I wasn't supposed to be playing it, even though my parents were perfectly fine with it. Like, I played a lot of M-rated games growing up and stuff. As long as they were perfectly cool with it. Because I wasn't like. I'm not like delusional. I wasn't like playing the game and then trying to go out and shoot up a Walmart or something. So they were fine with it. I was smart enough to know what's game and what's real. But I remember this being like, I don't know, kind of being like intrigued by it and being like, this is my first time playing something like this. And I think really introduced me to the idea of like video game violence and this kind of like dark, eerie atmosphere. The music, the setting, the characters, and really introduced me to the whole franchise. So I have a soft spot for it. Don't recommend you play it, though. It's not worth your time. Trust me, this game's stupid. The game was really stupid. But I appreciate it. I appreciate it for what it is. And I have that same copy. That same copy that I got out of that church basement is sitting over on my shelf. Along with, I got a couple other ones for N64. I think it's like Mythology Sub-Zero and Trilogy, which Mythology Sub-Zero is terrible and Trilogy is actually pretty good. But I have that original copy still, and it's like not one of my favorite N64 games. I wouldn't rank it up there. Like if I did a top 10 N64, I wouldn't rank it, anywhere near the top of that list. But there's something special about it, and I could never part with it. I think I did sell some of the games that came with that console originally, like I think like Top Gear game and so, like a few other ones. I played, because I had games to play as a kid. But as I got older, I sort of parted with some of the games I didn't care about, and I've collected a ton of other N64 games that I do care about. But I don't think I could ever part with this game. Because it's special to me. And it's a game that shaped me. I think if I didn't play Mortal Kombat 4, I wouldn't have gotten into maybe fighting games as a whole. And I wouldn't have gotten into maybe some more of the darker, more violent games, which definitely permeates the rest of my gaming experience. I always enjoyed more darker, violent experiences that really still resonate with me. And yeah. Thanks for watching this episode of The Games That Shaped Me, or listening to this episode of The Games That Shaped Me in Oral History. The show is available on Spotify. That's pretty cool. If you want to hear more of my babbling, you can listen to the other episodes of this series, or I've only had one episode out at this point. I had a second one planned. There were some recording issues, so I'm going to have to postpone until I can get things figured out for a minute. I'm going to have to reschedule some stuff. But I do have an official TurboZone podcast. It's on Spotify and my YouTube channel. It's the Hey Geeks and Gamers podcast. If you want to hear me talk to my good friend Brian of IGotKings, he was on the first episode, and I'm going to have some more guests on the upcoming episodes. That's what was supposed to come out this week. I have recording issues, so sorry. But hopefully you enjoyed this episode of The Games That Shaped Me. Let me know what stupid N64 game shaped your childhood and why. Was it Mortal Kombat 4? Was it like buggy? Was it Beetle Adventure Racing or something? What stupid game did you play? Because we all played the greats, we all played Mario 64, we all played Banjo-Kazooie, we all played fucking Star Fox, but what stupid game did you play? And why do you like it? See you guys later.
Round 1, fight!
Yes.